Welcome! Join us as we are going to explore incredible tales of human resilience, courage, and determination. Share with us if you have any unbelievable human survival experience which you have seen with your own eyes. Let's begin our journey to explore shocking events that tell the stories of people who translated the word impossible into I am possible. Aaron Ralston. Aaron Ralston will forever be known as the guy who cut his hand off to escape a climbing accident that left him trapped between two boulders. Ralston was climbing Blue John Canyon in Utah alone. As he shimmied down a canyon, a boulder came loose and trapped his hand. No one knew he was there, and he only had a little bit of water and a little bit of food. It was up to him to rescue himself. He struggled for 3 days before deciding to self-amputate in order to extricate himself. But after 2 days of trying various methods, he nearly gave up. At this point, he was out of water and surviving on his own urine. That is, until an idea came to him on day 6. He could amputate a portion of his own arm much more easily if he could only break his radius and ulna. After an hour of work with a cheap multi-tool, he had amputated his hand successfully and had to still get back to his vehicle, descending a 65-foot wall with one hand. He was eventually discovered by a European family on a camp out, and 6 hours after his self-amputation, he was rescued by authorities. He was found just in time. Ralston was on the brink of death from blood loss. He survives today, still taking outdoor expeditions and climbing adventures when not giving speeches or having movies made about his life. Apollo 13. To date, no living humans have been as far in space as the crew of Apollo 13. The crew's path took them 2,48,655 miles from Earth before swinging back down for a miraculous landing. But the crew never made it to the surface of the moon, their original destination. Instead, Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Hayes encountered a problem that could have killed them all. Faulty wiring ignited an oxygen tank, blowing out part of the spacecraft. Using the lunar module as a lifeboat, the crew stretched the rations that remained. They had to make a day-and-a-half worth of food for 2 people and last for 4 days among 3 people. The crew had to make an orbital correction that took them far away from the moon to slingshot them back toward Earth. By day 50, he was covered in sores from the salt water, struggling with dehydration in the tropical waters, and struggling to patch a hole in his raft. Exhausted, and after losing 1/3 of his body weight, Callahan was finally spotted by some fishermen off the coast of Guadeloupe as birds and fish circled his raft, foraging the fish guts he tossed back into the sea. He'd been adrift for 76 days. The Robertson family. For 38 days, the Robertson family was lost at sea. Patriarch Dougal Robertson, a British dairy farmer, just wanted to take his family on a boat trip for the University of Life, as his son called it. On January 27, 1971, Dougal, his wife, and their 4 children set out on a wooden schooner called the Lucette, heading to parts unknown. For 17 months at sea, the family fared well, sailing from port to port and seeing the world. But on June 15, 1972, the family encountered a group of killer whales off the coast of the Galapagos Islands. The whales attacked the boat, splintering it and severely damaging it. The ship was taking in water. All they had was a lifeboat and a small dinghy, and just 6 days' worth of food. They survived on rainwater and hunted turtles, adrift at sea, hoping to ride Pacific currents to the middle of the ocean, which would then push them toward the Americas. After 16 days, the raft was no longer usable, so the family of inexperienced crew members fled to a dinghy. It was a 10-foot boat far over capacity, but they managed to cling on until they were discovered by Japanese fishermen on July 23, 1972. Julian Kopke, on Christmas Eve 1971, Kopke flew on Lanza Flight 508, which was struck by lightning. It began to disintegrate in mid-air, and Kopke found herself still strapped to her seat, 2 miles above the Peruvian rainforest. She was battered. She was bruised. Her collarbone was broken, but she was alive, the only survivor of the flight. And now, she found herself in the wilderness alone. Some candy was her only food, but she found a small stream. She waded down water in it, able to keep herself hydrated at the same time. The insects in the jungle stopped short of eating her alive, and maggots had infected her arm, but after 9 days, she was able to find an encampment. She gave herself rudimentary first aid, including pouring gasoline on the maggot infestation. A few hours later, lumber workers found her, giving her first aid and taking her to a more inhabited area where she was airlifted to a hospital. A few hours later, lumber workers found her, giving her first. Her story was eventually told in the 2000 documentary Wings of Hope by director Werner Herzog, who had a seat booked on that very flight before canceling at the last minute. If you liked this, an unforgettable exploration of survival stories of human resilience and spirits that defy all odds, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon button.